so happy today to have Arizona Joe here and Cocaine Michelle here. You are coming back, but you've never been on the show, so welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Um, I was thinking before you both just showed up that I think maybe this is a little pompous, but I think that we're three of the coolest people in Portland Twitter right here.
Yeah, I yeah,
It's probably true.
absolutely.
Funniest, maybe, and
Well, I'm not
intelligent.
that cool. I haven't been here long enough to be Portland cool.
Okay.
I'm an outsider, but I'm not from California, so plus one for me.
And where are you from, Arizona Joe? I'm just kidding.
Michigan. No.
um, actually, when did you get here?
So 2011.
Okay, that's been a while.
Yeah. And so I'd always fetishized Portland in my head, and yeah, cliched as all get out, but I like Portlandia, and I know that's the absolute wrong thing to say.
Yeah, that's all
I
good.
love
'Cause
Portlandia.
so many shitheads have come here because they love Portlandia. There were other reasons, don't get me wrong, but it was about 15 years in Arizona. And if
Okay.
you've ever spent more than one summer there, you know why I want to get out.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, it's like 110 degrees or more.
Yeah. All of July last year, every single day, it hit 110 or above.
Jeez,
And human beings are not supposed to
the
live
whole
in that.
month.
It's a
The
dry heat,
entire
Joe.
month.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah, so
crazy.
is an oven, but you don't
Deal
stick
with
your
it.
head in there.
Yeah.
I do have. I was gonna ask you about Arizona in general in a little bit because I've never been there that I can remember.
What?
Really?
But I've had roommates and stuff that have lived there, and I want to ask you about some of that stuff that I've heard about it. But first though, if you both want to give me an update as far as you want to go on this, you just got back from Astoria, and I want to also know just what you've been doing in general because you've been doing a lot of photography and stuff. But yeah, do you guys want to take turns
Tell us
update?
about Astoria.
Oh, jeez. So I was trying to know about my love life. Just went on a little 2-night trip there. It's a beautiful town. Been there before. They're not paying me to say that. And yeah, it was good. I was there with a lady friend.
A lady friend.
Nice.
You get no more details than that.
Did
I'll
you
find
get
out
some
later.
clam chowder?
The sex was
Oh
good.
my gosh. Clam chowder.
Is that what they're calling? Is that what they're? Yeah, is that what they're calling it now? Clam chowder. Well, that's good. Good.
I
that's
figured
good.
she was going to take things off the rails, but way to preempt her. Yeah,
I
was
thought
nice.
that was going to be true too. Andy with the win. Okay.
No, I actually didn't even think about that as a joke. I genuinely like clam chowder, but I didn't.
you
I didn't
actually
make the
mean clam
connection. I
chowder?
didn't make the connection.
Okay, then
but
I did make it awkward.
I haven't had enough coffee yet. So.
I'll do one quick plug. Again, not paid, but the Lloyd Hotel.
What hotel? Okay.
They actually had free salmon chowder
Nice.
every night.
I have never even heard of salmon chowder.
I never
That's-
Oh
heard
my
of it.
gosh.
It was amazing.
Is that like one of the downtown hotels or?
No, so it's about a mile outside of it, and it's very, very beautifully placed right next to a U-Haul and
Nice.
a short-term storage center.
Okay.
So the
Oh, no
ambiance
kidding.
is probably an F minus, but it was a great hotel. And free salmon chowder.
Free salmon chowder, and you can look at that U-Haul and think, "Man, I could be getting out of Oregon right now." Just kidding. I'm just joking. Yeah. And do you want to update people on what you've been doing at all, or
Well,
if not, you can just.
As far as Astoria goes, I have an unplug, which is that Bowie, if you're listening,
Yeah.
Bowie,
It's my favorite beer.
they used to have these amazing house-made pickles.
Really?
I love pickles.
Uh,
I
so they-
mean pickles. Precisely pickles. They had the best
she means
pickles.
dicks.
I like that too, but in this case, Bowie made a great pickle. And we ate there like several years ago.
they have like a restaurant or
Yeah.
okay.
It was on the waterfront,
Okay.
but it fell into the water.
Yeah, I heard their thing like fell in as part of the dock collapse. or
Yeah, they
whatever,
like
yeah.
collapsed into the water. So they have a new location or a temporary one. And
Okay.
I was super excited the next time we went to Astoria because I was like, I'm going in there and I'm buying pickles. I
That's-
thought about it all day. They don't make their pickles anymore.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't actually know they had a restaurant. I remember seeing the thing on the dock, but I need to go there because that's like my favorite beer.
It's really good. If
Yeah.
you go there, like, it's legit. It's just don't get pickles.
Okay.
They served me these pickles and I was like, what the hell is that? It came out of a jar. And they're
That's
like, oh yeah, we
classic.
don't. They're like,
Yeah.
well, we wondered why you wanted our pickles. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well.
Sad.
Well,
I like the Astoria updates. Yeah.
And for beer lovers, Fort George Brewery,
Yeah.
also a great one. And they're having a stout month where they had all sorts of exotic stouts. So if you're a
Okay.
stout lover, I would head up there in February. It's
like-
pretty excellent.
Yeah, I like Fort George too. They're good. We're lucky to have them.
Other
Yes.
than that, I've been taking pictures of poop. That's all.
Oh, that's true. Yes, she takes. That's kind of one of your themes. that you-
It is, but it's like accidental.
And another one is, which I was gonna try to put in I called you the Sarah Connor of Trash Portland or something.
Portland garbage.
Portland Garbage, and that's another thing, and you capture both those things wonderfully. I do seriously want to shout you out because you've been doing so much more work than like when I first met you. I feel like
I got
And
a camera.
you're-
I got my own camera finally.
you're hustling. Yeah,
Yeah. Once I got my own camera, then I was really excited about using it.
yeah.
So
So go check out her stuff. And Arizona Joe,
Arizona Joe's photography is great.
or I'm just saying his posts and tweets and stuff. Yeah. So you kind of just mentioned it, but tell me how. Well, actually, first let's start. Yeah, talk about Arizona for a minute and how that is, because one of the things I was thinking of that I had heard a long time ago, which is like kind of a Portland progressive thing, is like they don't recycle. Everything goes into one bin. And I'm not even for or against that. I just thought that was interesting. But just tell me about what it's like living there. And
So it's interesting. Most people just think of it as the city of Phoenix or environs where it's just desert, it's paved over, et cetera, et cetera. In reality, it really is one of the most beautiful states in the country. It might be the most, then and Utah. And I've been to most of them by now. Once you get north, you can get up to 7,000 feet elevation. The city of Flagstaff gets more snow on average than the city of Buffalo, New York.
That's really cute too.
Yeah, it is. It's a great city.
so you're talking feet of snow. Yeah.
Yeah. And the geography is so varied. Everyone just thinks of it in this one bucket, but it's much more than that. Now, Maricopa County or City of Phoenix, it is just overly paved. It's development everywhere. It's not very pretty. There's plenty of opportunity there. There's a lot of positives to it. But you've been there long enough, and it becomes. I kind of liken it to Florida, as in America's trap house of the West,
Okay.
where a lot of people kind of go there for some sort of opportunity, but just never end up leaving. And I got to
Okay.
the point where, like, all right, if I don't get out of here, it's almost like the Tracy Chapman song, where if I don't leave, I'm going to be stuck there forever.
Yeah.
So it's great. It has great opportunities, but another thing, and one thing I found on my Twitter feed is because I criticize Portland, I get a lot of people. I say that I'm moderate, and I mean that. I get a lot of fairly right-wing followers, which is fine. Hey, if you dig what I'm tossing out there, cool, great. But you're not going to agree with a lot of what I have to say. And assuming that the Earth is warming, and data shows us such, we could argue about why. That's a different conversation, but if the Earth is warming, do you really want to be in the hottest, driest metro area in the
It's a
country?
good question. Yeah.
Yeah, and water is starting to run out. That's a real thing. It's not, an emergency yet, but if the drought super cycle keeps going, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
So it's really just, I don't think it's sustainable long term. If you want to retire there and you're going to croak in 10 years, cool. That's great in the winters. I mean, it's probably 65 degrees right now.
Well, I know isn't it a big pickleball destination?
Yeah,
I don't know
we're-
if destination's the right word. But
Yeah,
people retire there and play pickleball is what I'm.
Yeah. It, to that end, it's not just like Florida and being a trap house, but also
Right,
a huge retirement community. So it's great on the joints. As I get older and being out here, I realize when old people talk about the humidity in their joints, they're not just being old, or maybe I'm old too, because now I feel it.
No,
It's a
it's
real
real.
thing.
It
It's a
real thing.
hurts.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you about that earlier because like I'm not putting anything out climate change wise, but it's just hot as hell is what you're saying, and that gets old. And
Yeah.
were they like rationing water like California does in the?
Some parts. So I do a lot of writing still based in that area, so I have to stay in tune with it, unfortunately. And there was new developments that aren't incorporated yet. There was a big fight in one of them near Scottsdale where their agreement for water ran out, and they were having to truck water in.
Okay.
And,
That's scary.
yeah, 3 or 4 times the price of normal water.
Yeah.
But do they
The
pay
exact-
more than we do?
Probably not.
Because Portland is crazy. Our
The water
water is
bills?
insanely expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say water bills were less in Arizona, which is so counterintuitive, but pretty much everything costs less there for
Wow.
myriad of reasons. But
What about the drugs?
the drugs?
Yeah. What is a good? Are you saying it's the same drug problem? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I've never done any drugs in my life, so I don't know how the drugs are there.
Not even caffeine.
No.
Yeah.
This
I've never
body
had
is a
to pay
temple.
for them.
So, and that segues into it's like this everywhere that a lot of Portland apologists like to
Yeah,
toss out
you do
there.
hear that. Yeah.
And it's not. There are issues, but from a tolerance perspective of what's in front of you, like I had never seen I shouldn't say never, but in all my time there, seeing a random crazy person who's probably been up on meth for 5 days ranting, that's not a thing out there. You don't see that
Hmm.
because there's no tolerance for it. You do that and you're going to get put away either in an asylum or in jail or something like
Hmm.
that. And that's unequivocally a positive. I'd say that, the people who say that it's like this everywhere just tell me that they don't travel because West Coast progressive states, yes.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
kind of similar.
I've been all over the country and not that long ago, and it's not like this everywhere.
Yeah.
These
Mhm.
people are like either lying or they're crazy.
Mhm.
Mm, mostly, well, or ignorant, or a combination
ignorant.
of all the above.
All of it together, yeah.
And they have this novel idea of, and homelessness has turned into more of an issue in Phoenix specifically, and you can actually attribute it to the cost in housing there has gone through the roof, especially
Okay.
rents. It went up like 40% in 2 years,
Wow.
way above the national average.
Yeah.
People were fleeing here and going there
Yeah.
in California.
Well, if you sell a house in California, you probably sell, a 800 square foot house for 1.2 million or something absolutely absurd, and can downgrade,
Right.
get something larger in Arizona, also save on your taxes, all that. So it makes a lot of sense if you're a homeowner, you're trying to get out of there. But went through the roof there. There's a lot of people who are working poor who did kind of get screwed over by that. So there is that element that's legit. That's not drug based. But for the homelessness there, they have this novel concept where they just keep them ring fenced in one area called the zone.
Okay.
And it's kind of off downtown, and you know that you're not supposed to go there. There's not much to see there. It's not like downtown Portland where
Right.
people would go and spend money there, and
Yeah.
now they're having to step through feces, and Cocaine Michelle's taking pictures of the feces, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see 'em.
Someone's
Yeah.
got to prove that it's happening.
Just put
Yeah,
together
that's
a calendar. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. One shitty year.
You should though. You should do
Yeah.
it.
It's a really
That
good
is
idea.
interesting though. That they. So that's kind of what a lot of people have suggested here of like designated camping site, basically, right?
We do
Yeah.
have those,
Yeah.
but it's not mandatory.
Right.
necessarily,
It's not
and
enforced or.
I've heard that people don't really like them that much, and that it basically is like a place for prostitution and drug dealers
Mhm.
to do their thing, just in a concentrated area.
Yeah,
I've heard this from the tiny home people. Like,
it's not great.
But
nor-
But was that started years ago or?
It was a relatively recent phenomena. I would say probably about 4 years ago. It was relatively
Okay.
soon before I left. And it works,
Yeah.
and if I had to say the biggest difference or the biggest reason why it's not happening here, another huge difference between here and Arizona is the nonprofit complex,
Hmm.
is that it's not a big thing there. It does not run the show.
Okay.
Government runs homeless shelters and all of that. So there's little financial incentive for them to keep things going. They want to solve a problem because, hey, if they solve the problem, that's less government expenditures, it's better for the budget. Whereas here, it seems like it could sort of push that, hey, the worse the problem is, the more money we can justify getting from taxpayers to solve the problem. to
Yeah.
solve
that's
the problem.
crazy. It's like the one time where the government's better at doing something
Yeah.
than somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, in my mind, it's almost like these nonprofits are almost like a shittier form of government. I don't know.
They
I
are,
guess that
yeah.
doesn't make sense, but they're kind of competing to be the shittier. So, but that is interesting that they're doing it.
Yeah, it blew my mind when I was told that Multnomah County doesn't run any of these shelters themselves. They just outsource
Yeah.
all of it.
I was gonna. Why do you think that is that Arizona like did it that way? Did they just kind of start it so they had success and were like, we don't need these nonprofits and we'll just.
I think a lot of it is cultural, that nonprofits just aren't a huge part of everyday life there. I mean, they certainly exist. And I've done work with a homeless shelter doing digital marketing work for them. And compared to the one in Arizona, where they all seem like legitimately good people who are trying to solve a problem. And I hear stories out here where it seems like they have no interest in really solving the problem. It's just a night and day. It's a cultural change or a cultural shift. It just seems like it's not a thing. And I couldn't tell you why. I think it's fundamentally, it's kind of how the area was founded, where it's much more pro-business, limited government, not relying, but more than anything, not self-reliance, I
Okay.
would say.
Yeah,
That culture is very big there.
that makes sense. Yeah, because I was thinking, there's just a different outlook on
Yeah.
nonprofits in general. Like there's more skepticism there, maybe, and like you said,
Legit
more self-reliance.
skepticism.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we're just like, I think here people hear the word nonprofit and they just light up. They're like, that sounds great. How much money do you want? Like
Yeah.
it's so positive in their mind that they, I don't know.
And there is, a charity culture, but it's usually, from what I've seen, it's more with the wealthy. It's kind of the nice banquets and all that, and it's more the domain of the wealthy donating as opposed to a branch of the government, which it is here.
Okay. And then yeah, how did Portland come on your radar from I forget, 2011 is that what we said?
Or 2021. If I said 2011,
Okay.
sorry.
2021.
So a few different things. One, the polar opposite of Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Not hot, not sunny all the time. And by the way, I know people love to see the sun out here. If you see it every day, all day, for months on end,
I believe
it
it.
sucks.
Yeah.
Kind of like clouds for 6 months.
Except clouds don't hurt you. The sun is out to kill you.
They do though. They give you, what is it? Vitamin D deficiency.
Okay.
Seasonal
slowly kill you
disorder or whatever.
if you don't kill yourself first.
No, I start to do that every year, even in like August here. I'm like, I'm tired of the same color temperature every day, the same just heat, but I don't know. I could, after 9 months or whatever of that, or the whole year, I guess I would be tired of it.
Yeah, it's about 320 days of sun on average per year.
Yeah.
And it gets a little, but wanted a new opportunity, a complete change. And as cliched as it is, I did like the show Portlandia. That was not my primary reason for coming here, but it seemed quirky. I love the ethos and the spirit of a city that had a little bit of rebellion in it.
Yeah.
That did things a little differently, because I've never fit in anywhere in my life. And it seemed really attractive to come to an area that seemed to be an area of misfits.
Yeah.
It is that.
Yeah.
Except
I love Portlandia. I'm wearing Fred Armisen shirt
She's got
today.
the Fred shirt. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I feel like I came about 10 years too late, though. But
You did.
Yeah.
It's not cool anymore.
But it is cool. It is. I feel like the show's kind of had a revival. Like maybe it's just reruns and stuff, or like now that it's syndicated more, but people.
It was a genius show.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was funny because it was true, like mostly true. It's just gone too far now. We're not Portlandia anymore.
No, definitely not. Yeah. I was saying the other day, like, and you would know about this, like the East Waterfront where they shot the Dream of the 90s video. Like that is just so different now. Like I cannot picture them filming that down there.
Yeah. We watched the show with our teenagers and they were just kind of shocked about these different locations because we see them, like we know some of them are even
closed probably.
Yeah, but it's just like there's no garbage. There's no anything. Like it's just clean. And they're like, is that how it really was? And I'm like, yeah, it was. Well, it was clean.
I'm not trying to like disparage Fred or Carrie, but you can also kind of tell like there was just such an appeal to the city at the time. Then all those guests and celebrities, they're like, yeah, I'll come there, and you just don't have that anymore. Like I don't know if Fred or Carrie are here anymore either, because it's just, I don't know. They probably have a home here, but
yeah, I don't know.
It's not like the pop and place that it was back in there. But that is cool that it brought you here, and I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, and I watched the series again after I got here, just to kind of, now that I had perspective on it. It is almost kind of, it was still amusing, but it was kind of sad. And the perspective of like, I remember the episode where the cops were having trouble relating to the people, so they did a fashion show and all that.
Yeah.
They were in a skate park, and some of the skate punks were talking shit to the cops, and it was whimsical and fun. And now I kind of look back at that relationship, and it's like, oh, that turned really dark.
It turned dark, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a cool story. And so when you got here, was it like, did it feel like paradise at that point, or was it? Like, was it while you expected and wanted? And
oh no, I mean, I had visited a couple years prior, and it was still kind of that semi-idyllic, and that was what prompted me to want to come out here. And then right before, when I was looking for places to live, I'd come a month before, and I'm like, oh shit, what happened? and I heard some local politicians talking about it, and it was the analogy that I like to use is using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it seems like the city perpetually thinks it's at the self-alignment, the very top step, when in reality it's several pegs down.
Oh, that's a good way. Yeah.
And not seeing that for what it is. And, and I'm a factory of bad analogies, so apologies now, but it also felt like the analogy or the comparison of a frog in a pot that didn't know that the water got turned up until it was boiling.
Yeah, so, I've heard that. A lot of people describe Portland, the boiling frog.
And then yells at everyone for pointing it out.
Right.
How dare you?
Put the frog back in the pot.
How dare you?
All right, let me unless you have anything more to add, let me ask one of these goofy questions. This might be a good one for. I was going to ask, what's your favorite Portland-based movie? Or, I mean, we just talked about Portlandia,
Yeah,
which is a TV
Portlandia
show,
would
but
probably be it for me.
let's say movies only. Do you have a?
I don't. All right, so I'm not really a movie person because my ADD, I just can't sit still for 2 hours. But and so I couldn't even name any or many.
Yeah, that's pretty
Portland.
limited. Yeah.
But Astoria, if we can
Sure,
go
yeah,
back to that one,
Northwest, yeah.
because the Goonies,
Mhm.
all right, and Kindergarten Cop. It's not a
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I love that one.
But going back to Astoria, I was remarking when I was there, the GDP of the city would be significantly lower if the Goonies was not a hit, because it is Goonies everywhere there, and
It's
they are
still
milking that.
Bringing
Oh
people
my
in, yeah.
God, so much.
Yeah.
I know the house recently changed owners, but I'm sure people go look at that.
Yeah, we had to make a stop there and
Yeah.
stop there, take a picture.
Nice.
At the top of the terrifying hill.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it was snowy? And
Also,
then trying to get down those hills?
I guess people probably do the Short Circuit movies. I think the
Yep.
first one or maybe the second one. I can't remember. But that was Astoria too.
One of them was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Portland movie or anything?
Sleepless in Seattle. Just kidding.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Try to save money, so filmed it in Portland.
I guess yeah. There's really
Canada.
there's really not that many. There's The Hunted, which a lot of people haven't seen, but that was like Benicio del Toro and what's the guy's name from The Fugitive?
Oh, I watched
and
that.
they like
I remember seeing the
they're
courthouse.
like jumping off the Hawthorne Bridge and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, wow.
That was another one where I'm like, wow, the courthouse looks so different.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those. It's like I don't know. It's pre bullshit in Portland, so it looks very
Well,
clean.
nobody
and-
films anything here now.
Yeah, never. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Pre bullshit.
Yeah.
BC. Bullshit.
Define bullshit.
There's also a good movie. This is kind of really getting in the weeds, but there's one called Breaking In with Burt Reynolds and this other guy, where Burt Reynolds teaches this other guy to like break into safes. And there's scenes in Oaks Park. There's a scene in the Coin Tower, like from one of the condos. Like it's really interesting to see Portland in the early '90s like that. But anyway, I'm a film nerd, so I'm thinking about that stuff a lot. So tell me a little bit about. I know you've worked on some political campaigns. I'm just curious what that's like. I'm kind of a politics nerd, and like, but I've never worked for anybody like in that capacity.
So, yeah, I did a fair amount of work, primarily on the Democratic side in Arizona, which, again, ticking off probably about 2/3 of my Twitter
Yeah, you can get
followers.
out. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'll preface it by saying I was a liberal there. I'm clearly a conservative here, just based on the Overton window. If you don't know what that is, feel free to Google it. And I love working on campaigns. One, because, I could do work in a marketing department at a corporation, say that, hey, I help boost revenue 5% for the quarter.
Mhm.
Cool. Few shareholders make a few extra bucks. No one cares. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But when you get to try to elect someone that you really believe in, you can see material change afterwards, and can look back on like, I helped do that. I helped create a change.
Mhm.
So that's really edifying in its own right. In Arizona, I helped elect the head of schools for a while, who was a 32-year-old, completely new to politics.
Well, it's young, yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge upset at the time, and got to say, hey, I helped do that, right? I won't go into too many specifics, just in case anyone wants to try to dox me, and I'm sure there's a few people who will try. But back to your question, I think it's the purity of it, and that going back to that revenue, I could say, hey, I helped boost revenue by a few percent, but in politics, it's election day, and it's did you win or lose? It's binary. There is no, I did all right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I did all right and I lost, but it doesn't really matter because you lost, right? It's 50% plus one, and it's the combination of the qualitative and quantitative. It's very numbers based. It's all about numbers of votes, but it's also about how you speak to voters and what messages matter and how you get it to them. So that combination just works well with my brain.
Mhm.
That's fun. Political candidates are sometimes very difficult.
Mhm.
I've worked with a gamut between really, really good ones and absolute sociopathic nightmares.
Okay.
The sort of people who run for office. And I equate it, and again, this will probably get me a few unsubscribers. I equate it a lot to police officers,
Okay.
in that there are many good ones who get into it, literally want to do the right thing for their area, and that's what motivates them. There are some who get into it, but sort of get corrupted through the process of it.
Mm.
And then there are some who never got into it for the right reasons in the first place, who is ego, power, whatever that might be.
And is it easy to tell like those three types, like at your experience level, or somebody who,
Sometimes it takes a while. Go back to the schools candidate that I worked with, and I always say that a political candidate either has a big ego, they really like to look at themselves in the mirror, or both. And if it's
Okay.
both, they better be really damn good at what they do because they're going to be a nightmare in all likelihood. But if they're an effective nightmare, not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
It in the case with that particular candidate, it took me about 5 months to realize, oh, she had an ego. The good ones can hide it for a while. And it's not always bad because in achieving any sort of greatness, you need to have a little bit of an ego, right? And to run for office, you're essentially saying, I believe that I'm the right person to do this.
Yeah, it's kind
right?
of like I'm great and I believe that I'm great.
And you
thing.
kind of have to.
Yeah.
And I mean, realistically, like if statewide race in Arizona, you're talking about 7 million people. Are you the best out of 7 million people? Almost certainly not.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to believe it to some degree and you have to pitch other people on it, right? So with that, I mean, there's confidence can turn into cockiness, can turn into self-delusion. It's always somewhere on that spectrum. But I've made some very good lifelong friends. I'll say also another very salient point to that end is that there are some, and this goes into one-party states, and the only thing worse than the two-party system is a one-party system.
Yeah.
Oregon has it now. Arizona had it for a while. And they're the sort of people who run for office in the dominant party
Okay.
that are a lot more prone to want power. If you're running in the non-dominant party, I've found you're much more likely to have good intentions, to be the sort of person that you want to work with, because it's a long, hard road. And anyone who's reasonable understands that, hey, there's a really good chance I will be a nobody coming out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, because if you're doing it for the right reasons, then it doesn't matter. You're not looking for the glory. You're not looking for the power.
Yeah.
It makes it easy to volunteer for good people out here. It made it easy for me to work for good people back there and even have a few wins, and now sort of transitioned. And a lot of people, I'll see people on my feed complain about Arizona politics now. I'll keep most of my opinions to myself so as to not get even more subscribers, but it's unquestionably better off than it was, I would say, 15 years ago
Okay.
when I was there.
Well, that's good. Yeah. You're saying the ecosystem in general is better.
Well, yeah,
Or
there's
the balance.
yeah, because one party governance, the party in charge never has to listen to anyone. You
Right.
just throw them some red meat on occasion. You see it here.
Yeah. That's
you know,
exactly what happens here. Yeah.
Yeah, here it's in the form of virtue signaling. And I probably all your listeners kind of already know, so I don't even really have to paint that picture too much. But of making the voters feel good by, hey, we're listed in marginalized communities, all that. You throw them a bone, and then they get to feel good about voting for you. Well, in Arizona, it was the same thing, just on the reverse end. A lot of times it's about immigration, which is a hot button now, but now it's a real problem. Back then, it was much less of a problem, but they would still try to capitalize off of it by being, tough on immigration, even in the communities that had no, you're talking retirement communities where they haven't seen a brown person in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Not even a landscaper?
Well, oh yeah. That.
Should probably edit that part out.
Well, that's yeah. Anyway.
It was amusing seeing a lot of similar tactics coming out here that I was used to seeing when Arizona was a one-party
It's
state.
just flipped. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that it's sociopathy. It's the halls of power. It's what you do to maintain power.
Mm-hmm.
And it does seem as though Portland might be on the precipice, and it's not going Republican as much as some left-wingers would like to imply as such. But it seems like it's on the precipice of that power structure. Finally, there's chinks in the armor and might finally be breaking apart.
Yeah.
So,
At least, yeah, moving more moderate, maybe, or I was thinking, originally thinking just not even more moderate or right. It's more just like the progressive left is kind of losing ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear that word now, and I'm just like, that means nothing. Like, it doesn't progressive. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, my dog's climbing all over here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I try to tell people, like, Portland, it's not right versus left. It's hard left versus moderate left.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, in Oregon, that's also a good proxy for what's going on because Christine Drazan was only a few points away from being a Republican governor in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for an issue like, I would say, abortion was probably the one thing that if it wasn't for that, then she probably would be governor because enough people are dissatisfied enough.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. A lot of people still feel like Betsy Johnson kind of drove that away. But for most people that I've heard, they're like, no, she would have, that had nothing to do with it. She would have lost either way. But yeah, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, it's tough to tell who Betsy Johnson took votes away from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't pay for polling for that sort of thing, it's tough to find out. It's all speculation.
There's no real data.
Yeah. No one's going to commission a poll for that. You know, spend $10,000 to find that. Most people wouldn't, I assume. And so then it goes to, well, it's one side wants you to believe it's one thing, and the other side wants to, and that just turns into political fighting, and,
Pointing fingers.
Yeah, which is not helpful.
But that's what we do.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not useful, but it's fun.
Yeah. Okay, let me see another one of these. I don't want to go to the grossest one of these.
Oh.
I mean, we could if you want. It's not even that gross. I did the Arizona thing. I'll ask you the one I made up when Tara was here earlier. Do you bring your phone in the bathroom, like, as a general principle? I've asked people this, and I never do. So when people do, I'm like, why are you bringing it in there?
Well, I want to make sure my phone is immune to viruses. So after I go to the bathroom, before I flush, I'll hold it right over and then flush.
Okay.
All the germs in
Spray.
there. Gets the natural immunity. You know, it's better than a vaccine. Yes, I do. But that is because I'm a phone addict.
So you're bringing it, with you most of the time.
The question is, because see, I left my phone in Andy's bathroom.
Yeah.
And it was because it was in my pocket and I took it out so it wouldn't fall in the toilet. But it's not because I'm a toilet scroller.
I guess that's the key difference.
So are you a toilet scroller? Is the question.
That's the real question.
All right, so this is getting very personal here. All right. Yes, slightly, but I'm also very quick. I'm very efficient.
Okay.
But yes. And so because of my work, I'm on it constantly. There's always emails to
You got to
check.
be up on it, yeah.
And I am a social media addict, and clearly there's some tweets that I need to read when I'm going to the bathroom. So yes, but it's a very short time frame. I'm efficient. I get in, get out. It's business.
You got a stopwatch. You're just going in the I'm just
hard hitting questions. It's very important.
I have time for 3 scrolls.
Yeah, 3 scrolls only. Yeah, the campaign stuff's really interesting. I was wondering too, when you were talking about that, do people kind of just throw shade at you or hate you for, like, I know a lot of young people who just are disgusted by anything political, like, especially you just bring up the word politicians and they're like, ugh. Like, and I'm not saying you are a politician, but just working with certain campaigns, like, do people just like learn about what you do and they're like, ugh, like, what do you?
Well, a lot of my practice has traditionally been away from politics anyway.
Okay.
And that's the helpful part because there's people who kind of do it as a side gig, and then there's political consultants, and that's their entire life.
Full time, yeah.
And that is a different, you know, if there's any watching here, I'm going to keep my words pretty tight to the vest, but it's a different world when your entire paycheck depends on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get kind of gross. Most people don't, just because I don't really volunteer it. And frankly, a lot of my Twitter account really is the only one that I talk about politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because my great aunt or my friend from college, they don't need to hear about my thoughts on Biden or Trump.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's enough that BS everywhere that it's good to have safe havens of, you know, here's some cute pet pictures and goofy posts that make people smile, because at the risk of sounding cheesy, I think we need a little bit more of that in this world.
Yeah,
And
no, it's a good point. Well, I was thinking too, I think that you're right. It is a healthy thing, because like, to me, that's what creates people to be able to talk to each other, is like like not everything has to be about politics, and we
Mhm.
have so much more in common outside of anything political that I don't know. That sounds good to me.
Oh yeah, and a friend of mine said, "Well, everything is political,"
It is now.
well, yeah. Unfortunately, it seems to be, and I pushed back a little bit, but then I had an opinion on Taylor Swift and football, and oh Jesus Christ, that's just
I'm very vocal about that, by the way. The past few weeks at work, and everyone's just like, "You're a Swiftie hater" and all this stuff. I'm just like, I like watching football. I don't like watching Taylor Swift in the box or
It's
whatever. You know, like,
ridiculous.
exactly.
It's ridiculous.
and it doesn't how that conversation morphed is interesting to me, and it's also, I would say, indictment of how people try to insert politics or make people take sides,
mhm.
political sides, because yeah, I mean, I found I'm a football fan. I found it relatively irritating, but whatever. At some point, you live with it. You bitch and moan
Yeah,
once, so
yeah.
you move on, right? But how that then turned into, well, how everyone who has any complaint is angry and they're a right winger, and then it became a political conversation. It became pretty clear to me that there was sort of top down messaging of this is something to capitalize off of, and then Fox News is running with it, so clearly they're happy to take the other side of that argument,
Right.
and everyone's doing it for clicks and engagement, and so clearly turned into not just a political battle where you're trying to get more people to your side,
Mhm.
but also we're trying to drive advertising revenue because we want you to click on this hyperbolic stupid article of this thing that we know that you're interested in.
Right.
And it is the epitome of everything that's wrong with the merging of politics and society these days.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like they already ruined football enough to
Mhm.
where I don't even care anymore. I used to love football,
Yeah.
but
I
this
was
is
telling
too
people
much.
like and that for whatever posterity, the Super Bowl is tomorrow. We're recording this, but I've told people like I may not even watch it this year because, and that's more of just because I was a Cowboys Dolphins fan. My teams are gone.
So you like the
I
color
don't-
blue?
I really don't like the 49ers, but I really like. I guess if I had to pick, it would be the Chiefs. But
Wait. Isn't that the one that has the Swift person on it?
it is. But like
No.
I also don't care about the Chiefs because like they've already won Super Bowls and like I don't care.
They have
so,
won enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no compelling storylines with the Super Bowl. I'd say maybe Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
That's really the only thing. I have no interest in it. And Patrick Mahomes seems like a good guy, but I'm just sick of seeing him.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sick of the KC story. Like congrats to them, it's great. But yeah, like you said, I don't think there's a compelling.
Maybe this is why they had to have Taylor Swift because nobody cared enough.
That's one of the theories.
It
that
just
everyone-
wasn't
yeah.
interesting enough. I'm just gonna serve snacks and bitch about the
My-
halftime show.
I kind of made this prediction
Disgusting
this week
every year.
at my work, but they're like, "Why isn't she doing the halftime show?" And I'm like, "If you want to do the long play conspiracy, she'll be there this year, and then next year maybe she'll do the halftime show or something, or she'll be playing on the field. Who knows?" But
Maybe she'll have her wedding at halftime
yeah, or that.
Next
Ooh,
year.
plot
and
twist.
sing at her own wedding.
Timestamp this because that might happen. And she
Yeah.
might do that, yeah.
I'll have to check with the script writers and see if they put that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What was it? Oh yeah. So let's get into some 2024 local stuff. I was thinking a second ago when you were talking about campaigns. Are you a fan of like? Did they do this in Arizona? The whole ranked choice voting, all the newer, none of that. Okay.
That does not exist in Arizona.
Okay. How do you feel about that? Are you and all the Portland voting changes?
So I think it was a masterclass in Portland progressives capitalizing off of the situation. What I mean by that is that the commissioner style of governance, and for those who aren't aware, Portland was the only top 50 metro city to have this style of governance. And so that's where each of your city commissioners are essentially CEOs of a large or multiple large city departments.
There's like 3 bureaus. That,
Yeah. And it's antiquated, but really probably the most problematic thing about it, in my opinion, is that your average voter does not vote for someone based on their leadership experience.
Mhm.
Like Joanne Hardesty. She never run a bureau with hundreds of people. She was never a high-level manager, a C-suite officer at a corporation, right? These are the sort of people that you should be electing to roles like this that understand how to govern a lot of people.
Mhm.
No one votes like that. And that's a right and a left thing. So I'm not saying that's purely Portland. And so you got really horrible governance because they picked the wrong people. The city manager style where the city council appoints a city manager who's a professional who knows how to do these things. That's extremely common everywhere.
Mhm.
It works. Side note, the city of Portland or Oregon loves to be first or last at a lot of things, and it never works out. This would be one case where it did not work out. So that was very clearly needed. I think nearly everyone agreed on that. But never let a good crisis go to waste, as the old political axiom goes. And the progressives took the opportunity to put in a few other things, including expanding the city council from 4 to 12 and ranked choice voting. 4 and a mayor was too small, in my opinion. 12, having 3 in each district, is just weird. I've
just
never heard of it.
Bonkers to me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't.
Like 2,
like 2,
okay.
yeah.
Or City of Phoenix is 8 singular districts with 1 in each.
Okay.
Right. That sort of thing. 1 person, 1 rep, or 1 council person in each district, and expand the number of districts. That's normal. Definitely seemed like a play to get more people, and it's no surprise that several of the people who worked on charter reform are now running for city council.
Right.
You know, little conflict of interest, maybe just a bit. You got me ranting now. All right.
Okay.
All right. And then the salary committee decides, well, hey, okay, you're not running a large groups of people. You're not in a upper management role anymore. So, your time on the job will be significantly less. You're just voting for things now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Probably 10 hours a week, maybe. Or 10 hours a month. I'm sorry. 20 a month. Well, instead of docking your pay because you have much less time on the job, we're going to give you a pay increase. It makes sense at 0 cents whatsoever. But
because they're making like 120K or something like that?
Yeah, I forget the exact. They were going for 140. I think enough people
gosh.
got in their ear that was a little exorbitant. But in what world do you have to do less than half the work, maybe 1/3 of the work, but you get a pay increase?
Yeah.
Maybe I should have run for office.
You really
You
should.
should.
I could have so many boots
Yeah,
and camera
I actually-
nice
lenses.
cameras. Yeah.
Yeah. You just blow it all on camera equipment. Yeah. Just, I
And
didn't know that though
tattoos.
about the less hours worked or whatever.
Yeah, and there's salary commission to figure all this out, and it's because you need 12 commissions to study things before it goes to any sort of vote for a commission, et cetera, et cetera.
I hate everything
Yeah, it's
so much.
and that whole big government side, that's a whole other conversation compared to Arizona. Because wow, that
Yeah.
was awakening for me. But back to ranked choice voting. Ostensibly, I'm not necessarily against the idea, but it does seem as though it will lead to more sort of fringy candidates. Because like a Sarah Ionaroni, however you pronounce her name, or Chloe Udali, where you don't have to appeal to many people. You just have to appeal to 25% of the people really, really well. But I also think that there's going to be the law of unintended consequences, and that, say, for instance, I think it's District 1, which would be Portland's east side. That's the district that voted en masse for Rene Gonzalez. A lot more conservative than the inner east side. A lot more people of color. That's another irony, where people of color typically are more conservative politically than Arizona or Portland's white people. Another conversation.
But we're trying to help you.
But I was told that there's, I believe, is about 30% of the voting base in that district is Republican.
Okay.
So if one Republican wins and they run a halfway competent campaign, they're going to go to city council.
Yeah, 30% is pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So all you need to do is coalesce that vote and have them not vote for anyone else, and you're punching your ticket to city council. And I would imagine that if you would have told the makers of this that, hey, you're going to get a Republican on Portland City Council, they probably would have cried.
Yeah.
And been really hurt.
Started rioting or something.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
some riots, mostly peaceful riots, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing up here to see that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe it's because I grew up in a small Southern Oregon town that was very Republican, but you see all these people who clearly are not registered Republicans or anything like near it, and then people on the progressive side will just be like, they're a far right candidate, far right person, whatever, and it's just I don't know, using the language. to
Rene
really-
Gonzalez,
Yeah,
white
yeah.
supremacist.
It's just ridiculous.
And it's funny because it's such an insult. Like, ooh, you're a Republican.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, what could be worse?
That's the other thing that bugs
the
me.
horror, like
Yeah.
a major party in the United States.
Right.
How dare
Having
you?
more diverse opinions. Wow. Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, we don't want that kind of diversity. Let's not get crazy.
Yeah.
No, and hearing Portlanders talk about it, like, oh, they're so conservative, and part of me is just like, bitch, please come to Arizona,
Yeah,
go to
go
the
to-
outskirts of Arizona. You want to see conservatism?
Yeah.
You go to some of the outskirts towns outside of Maricopa County, like Bullhead City, Quartzsite. If there's any Arizonans watching, you'll know what I'm talking about. And them some crazy Republican
Yeah.
out there. That's a different breed that you won't find anywhere in Oregon. Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think that? Well, there's a crazy left in Portland. That's every hyperbole you could think of, and just think of the absolute opposite, except for 400 days of sunshine a year and 184 degrees. That's what you get in the outskirts of Arizona.
Yeah.
It bakes your brain. They go crazy.
It
Interesting.
does bake your brain. Yeah. All right. I didn't realize we've been going this long, but do you want to try these smelling salt thing right now?
Yes.
You want to actually
Let's
do it?
go.
Okay. All right. So this I'm stealing this kind of from Joe Rogan, but I did want to say I am friends with Joe. Did this with Theo Vaughn, who I'm friends with his past weekend producer Nick Davis. He's probably not watching this, but so I can claim that connection. But anyway, do you want me to do it first, or do you want
Why
to?
don't you do it?
Okay.
first?
Can you boof this stuff?
You probably could. I mean, this stuff is so strong.
Oh God, I would probably burn like.
Yeah, this stuff is so strong. You could
It just happened.
you could really use any orifice. So yeah, I can still smell it. You can probably smell it already. All right, I'm just gonna do it really quick, and then I'll hand it over. You got to do it quick though. Okay.
Okay.
Just yeah, don't get too close to it. It feels. I always tell people it feels like a swimming pool.
Really close.
Tara,
No.
you don't want to do it? Okay.
Wait, I'll get some.
Take a small.
I can already
My eyes are
smell it.
already watering, but
Yeah, it's cat piss.
it does. Yeah, it's ammonia.
It's cat piss. It's bottled
Is
cat
that
piss.
enough for you? You don't
Yep,
want-
that's
okay.
good.
Yeah, and if
I
peop-
smell enough pee walking around downtown.
And I promise this is just on Amazon. It's called Atomic Rhino. You can
Wow.
get that stuff.
It's just the one nostril, the first nostril
Oh,
that I
yeah,
swipe
yeah,
past.
yeah.
Boom.
Really close.
I've had people that do one and then I tell them just, don't get too close and they'll do 2 full nostrils and just go back. But
I don't normally cry, but it's a very emotional experience
Yeah.
I'm having here.
but that'll wake you up. I think it is losing a little potency, but it's
smells
still
really
pretty strong.
potent
Yeah.
even
And
from
it
far
does
away.
smell like a cat box in here now because that stuff is ammonia. But
Right.
maybe this is a good time. Speaking of ammonia.
Wait, do
cat-
people go huff litter boxes to get awake?
I've never thought about that.
There's a
actually.
South Park episode about that cheesing. Have you ever seen that episode where they're huffing cat piss?
No.
That sounds familiar. I don't know.
You should go watch
I've
it.
watched like
Interesting.
all of South Park, and people always bring up episodes that I totally forgot about. But I love the show.
All right, I'm sending that out after the show.
But this is a good segue because cat piss leads to my other goofy question of: do you pee in the shower?
that is a bridge too far. I will bring my phone in the bathroom, but I mean,
You don't do it. I do it. I'll say that I do it.
oh no, my bathroom or my toilet's right there. I don't. I mean, I could literally piss in my toilet from my shower.
It's one of those that people are so divided. I don't know.
It depends on how fast it's draining, right? I mean,
Yes, because people always say, "Well, you're pissing on your feet and stuff." I don't know.
you don't want to have it back up and then be taking a piss bath.
Yeah. I've always been okay with it. Maybe I'm disgusting, but I always tell people the Joey Diaz story, if you guys know Joey Diaz, but he said he used to shit in the shower as well.
I was going
How
to
do
ask
you
that
do that?
question. Wow.
And that's a bridge too far for me. I'm never going to do that, but
How,
that's a lot of cleanup and effort.
how do you
and-
get rid of it?
Yeah. So
You just cram it down the drain.
and maybe
you
that
use
was
a bottle of shampoo and
Now
are
you
like,
pee on it, which then dissolves it.
yeah.
It's a 1-2 combination or 2-1 combination.
Maybe I don't know if that's a bit, but you can find that clip online. He talks about it.
All right.
Okay.
I'm really curious about the logistics of
That was a fun little journey there.
Do you have a scooper?
Your own pooper scooper. We talked a little.
I mean, my kids have pooped in the bathtub, but I'm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You got to take it out yourself. Like
yeah.
someone's got to
I
do
see
with
what you
it.
mean. Yeah. Yeah. That's like a swimming pool situation.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
Caddyshack.
yeah. Let's talk a little more local stuff. Do you have any predictions as far as mayor candidates, or what you'd like to see, or well, yeah, I guess that's it for.
Well,
local
anyone that follows my Twitter feed knows I'm a Rene Gonzalez fan.
stuff.
Um,
Do you see it as mostly him and Mingus? between that?
Him
That's
and
kind of
Rubio really is the
Rubio, yeah.
dynamic. I think one of the bigger stories this year is if Mingus will stay in the race.
Yeah.
Because I've heard polling puts him in third with some
Mm-hmm.
distance.
Kind of a losing
Yeah,
battle, maybe.
in fundraising, he's fallen behind,
Yeah.
and I very much like Mingus. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not at all indictment about him. I think he's the sort of statesman that's needed in this city.
Mm-hmm.
But and if he was running at a different time, I think he'd probably be pretty successful. But the current iteration of Portland and the needs, the desire for change that most people have, a lot of people would say that he's not the right candidate for it. So obviously they can make up their own decision, but I think he might not even be in it towards the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Because right now we got what 6-7 months or whatever. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, do we have to wait that long?
yeah, right.
I thought it seemed short, but I don't know.
It
It
feels
is.
like
It
an
does a long time.
eternity
It's
with
still summer and all that stuff. Yeah.
campaigning, and everything changes so fast from week to week.
Yeah.
Plus,
He-
yeah, national elections.
Yeah. Which I'm gonna ask you about in a second too. But
We have the district attorney's race in May as well.
yeah,
so
but
that's going to
I mean,
come up first.
obviously, all of us probably are
Yes.
with Nathan Vasquez. I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
And I don't want, and I didn't answer your question. Honestly, I think it'll be a very, very tight mayoral race. Carmen Rubio will have the nonprofit complex on her
She'll
side
have
to a degree.
A lot of union support.
A lot of union
maybe.
support, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the unions are seem to like Renee as well. So that one would be very tight one way or another. Would be my best guess. DA's race, it's tough to count out an incumbent, even one that's as Schmitty as Mike Schmidt. I have to say though, it's going to be a tough sledding for him. I
Yeah.
think one of the interesting stories and it's funny what the political left tries to discredit. Because for a while they were saying that if you invoke the name of George Soros, you're automatically anti-Semite. A lot of these people now love Hamas, so there's some cognitive dissonance there that they need to work through. And yeah, I mean, the whole Soros thing is kind of intertwined in some conspiracy theorists, but at the same time, it's very, very much true. He
Yeah.
put a lot of money in district attorney races around the country.
Well, and also the Drug Policy Alliance, which a lot of people
Mhm.
do. He's poured money into that, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Which helped create Measure 110 and all that stuff. And
And I remember going back to Arizona, that there was a district attorney candidate there, or county attorney candidate. They have county attorney candidates. His name was Diego Rodriguez, and he had not raised very much money at all. This was in 2016. I think he'd raised about $50,000. And I remember I was watching Game 7 of the World Series, and there was an ad for Diego Rodriguez right before the opening pitch. And it's clearly not one he had made. I found out after the fact, Soros helicoptered in
Okay.
with a whole bunch of
'Cause that's
money.
gotta be an
about
So
expensive ad.
creepy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that I'd say probably 50,000 if I had to guess,
Yeah.
for a single ad. So that dynamic, if they decide, and now George is, he's 147 years old, and his son Alex, he's apparently taking the reins for
Okay,
Daddy's money.
Okay.
How much they decide to throw good money after bad and helping Mike Schmidt, yet to be determined. I think that could make it relatively close, but if not, I just don't see a path forward.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's kind of and I'm maybe get way off on this, but I was saying like a week ago, I feel like if you polled him right now or did a vote right now, he's probably getting like 10%
Yeah.
of, I don't know. And maybe he's obviously trying to shift that himself. And like you said, I agree with you. Like the more money they pour in, and when TV ad season really kicks in, they'll be pouring money into that. But
YouTube.
yeah, YouTube pre-roll and all that stuff. But
And even just the name ID of incumbency, because people might not like them, but it is the default for
Right.
for people to vote for.
It's an
people they've heard
advantage.
of.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I would
Don't
say
you want change though? People change.
you would like to think so, but
Let's vote for change.
yeah, I heard a thing that I agreed with recently of like, because the big battle in my mind right now is like, everyone's like, well, if you change off him, we're going to recriminalize drugs. It's like this new war on drugs again. And I heard something that was like, well, if the drug war wasn't working, is what we're doing now working? Because it's clearly not.
There are other
like,
things that we could be prosecuting as crimes,
Yeah.
like crimes,
Right.
theft,
what?
arson, assault.
Right. Just like a few examples. Yeah.
I think it's purposeful obfuscation by a lot of people on the left to say it's only this or that. It's a binary decision where
Yeah.
we either have what we what we have now, or you get caught with a bag of pot, you're going to prison for 20
Yeah.
years.
And that's what I hate is I hear all this. They think, oh, we'll go back to if you smoke a joint, you go to jail, which wasn't even the case in Oregon before. Like
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
a misdemeanor, you know?
It's purposeful, clear. I mean, I'm sure there's some well-meaning people who are just relatively ignorant or have not really thought through things at all. But I'll also state that, you know, I've always approached it that when it comes to addiction, you have to hit your rock bottom. When it comes to that sort of addiction, you have to hit a rock bottom before you're going to make the necessary changes to reverse course. And if you are living in a tent on a sidewalk for months on end and you've OD'd and been Narcan back to life several times, what is your rock bottom? Death. That's it.
Yeah.
And so nothing is going to compel them on their own volition to make these changes. So really, truly, their best option might be being physically separated from the drug in a holding center, in a jail, with hopefully some wraparound services so that they can get their shit together, because it might be the only chance that they have. Because what we're doing now, to your point, we're loving them to death.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, you know, people support a lot of these groups, but yeah, they'll go around with vans and just have Narcan on standby and give people sandwiches and stuff. And it's like, I don't know if that's helping people.
I don't know that they're trying, like, I think some of them have a policy of non-intervention. So it's like part of their policy that they do not offer to get people help because it's a form of judgment. And so they're only there to support them in the way that they're
right.
behaving now. And it's against their rules.
Yeah.
To offer people
But you know
help
what I
with
heard?
recovery.
Something I heard recently, which I agree with, is like, yeah, but Narcan is intervention. Like you're truly, if you wanted to let the people get that high, they would be dead. But you're intervening by bringing them back to life, like a ping pong back and forth, and
and giving them everything else they need to sustain the lifestyle. Like they're not autonomous. They're being propped up by the nonprofits or the state or whoever is feeding and clothing and Narcanning and giving them needles or whatever.
I was thinking a second ago, if Renee does get the mayor spot, I just think the city's gonna, at least Antifa's gonna go ape shit over that and just throw a fit for at least a few weeks. But that also could compound with the national election, which I've been telling people, you're gonna see riots no matter who wins, in my opinion. But what do you think about all this?
Well, I'll go back to the DA's race, because how May turns out will probably play into the reactions towards that. Because if there's going to be a tougher on crime stance, I mean, there might still be riots, but I doubt it's going to go on for 100 days. Well, you know, the mayor just...
Because you'll see enforcement.
You'll see enforcement. You'll see consequences. And it might take a little while for the consequences to flow through, but hopefully there's going to be some sort of stand. We're not going to tolerate this anymore. Would be maybe that's unrealistic on my part, but I think you know. And while I was in Astoria, I was very romantic, but I was looking through all the stuff with Biden and all the news recently about he has dementia.
It just gets worse every week. It seems like
he started with dementia.
I didn't even know. I was saying this a week or two ago. I didn't even know. First of all, that he's the oldest ever elected, even I believe when he got in office, but now he's like 83 or something. But yeah, all the clips this week were just insane.
They were just hiding it up until now. I guess now you're allowed to point it out.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm not a Trump fan. Won't vote for him.
I will.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly. If it's between them two, I just hear a lot of people complaining, like, I just wish it wasn't anybody but these two. I was more of a DeSantis guy, but yeah, I'm not really excited for this race, and especially for Portland. It's just, I didn't even think about what you just said. Yeah, how the DA race could affect that. And, you know, I just had a business owner in here last week, and she's like terrified of what, you know, all the results of the election and the city, the new city form and all that stuff. It's such a mess.
Yeah, it's going to be
a lot in 1 year, you know.
And you have the luxury, if you don't know what you're going to do, it doesn't really matter, because in Oregon, your vote for president
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right? Thanks, Electoral College. And Arizona did for me, but now I'm probably just not going to vote, because I can't in good conscience vote for either, and that's my choice. But I know it doesn't matter. So
yeah, by the time it gets over here, the race is kind of over most of the time. But...
If any state on the West Coast is close, it's going to be a blowout for Trump. But yeah, I think Trump's going to win. And I wouldn't even try to predict how it's going to turn out in Portland.
Okay.
It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
Oh,
good.
we haven't finished hitting rock bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
We are still huffing stuff in our tent, metaphorically speaking.
Oh, okay, metaphor.
Metaphorically
Yeah.
speaking, Portland is still living in a tent
Yeah,
in Chinatown,
I just feel
sitting
like
on the sidewalk.
there's probably a lot of people who like want a round two is kind of how I feel like, especially if Trump does win. They're just like, oh well, now we gotta get back out there. The call's out, and we gotta burn stuff down and whatever. I don't know.
And you need a foil. You need
Especially especially after a lot of those people probably thought he's going to jail and all this stuff, and
oh yeah.
not if that doesn't happen, obviously it probably won't, but and then he does win, I get to see the outrage being crazy. But
Yeah, and I've had this conversation with a few people. My sister is convinced that he's going to jail, and I just tend to think, it depends on what news source you consume
Yeah,
as to
yeah.
what you think is going to happen.
Mhm.
I'm not a legal expert, not an expert in the judicial system, but I assume that they're probably just going to attempt to push off and delay an appeal until after the election.
Right.
And if he does win, well, then he can probably kind of call his own shots to a degree.
Yeah.
But again, not an expert. Won't pretend to know that that's the case. But yeah, I don't think there's a good way to go about it. I was very, very concerned about the various states trying to keep him off the ballot.
Hmm.
And if that happens in a way for the general election, I really dislike the hyperbole of we could be headed towards civil war and all that sort of stuff, but I don't see a good outcome if he is physically presented or not allowed to be on the ballot.
Yeah, I definitely
That's-
don't agree with that, and I believe that they just made oral arguments to the Supreme Court about that. For I forget the state that started it, but yeah, a bunch of states have tried it now, and I definitely don't agree with that. I don't think anyone should. I just see that as political elimination from
Yeah.
trying to take someone off any
Yeah, yeah.
race.
And I was kind of horrified by January 6th. I'm definitely not one of those who was in support of all that, but I don't think that this is the right answer.
Yeah, and I'm saying that I'm not really a Trump supporter, but I'm just like I don't think that's an ethical or legal way to go about your eliminating your political opponents off the ballot,
Yeah,
literally.
It's totalitarian stuff.
Yeah.
And,
It is.
leftists.
It's the thing that they say they're fighting against is what they're doing.
Yeah. And they talk about late stage capitalism, but maybe they're ushering late stage America.
Mhm.
I would not be shocked if, I'm not the type to say it's all falling apart and all that, but maybe by the time I croak, might be a vastly different country. And
Yeah.
Not what it is now. I don't know. I mean, anyone who tells you they can predict the future is a fool or a con. So
mhm.
I try not to be either of those. But
I was thinking when you mentioned polling and maybe you deal with this, like, do you feel like it's still accurate and reliable? And I know it depends on where you do polling or who does the polling and stuff, but I'm guessing that's still a staple of campaigning and
Oh, yeah.
relying on that stuff.
Oh yeah. And a lot of people love to discredit it because they're like, oh, well, this poll was wrong, ergo all of them are wrong.
Mhm.
And I have a science and economics background, degrees in biochem and finance. And so, yeah, when it comes to the data, that's extremely important. But the most important thing, when people tout polls or they disparage them, the one thing they're usually not looking at is the methodology,
Okay.
like who they ask, how they
How they
ask.
do it. Yeah.
Like if it's purely an online poll, those are so easy to hijack. If it's
Right.
purely a landline poll, it's hard to get anyone under the age of 70 to
Yeah.
answer that. So all those little things go into it, but also the specific questions. And more savvy political people kind of understand push polling, where you're not trying to get data, you're trying to insert an opinion into their head by asking the question.
Interesting. Okay.
Like if you knew that Tina Kotek was a child molester, how would this make you feel?
Right.
Is she
Yeah.
not? But
Right.
now you're thinking, oh my God,
You're
Tina
kind of
Kotek,
slipping
child
it in.
molester?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lee Atwater, who was a old hand in political consultancy, he was marvelous at this, completely sociopathic, but effective. Forgot where we we're going. Polling. They're helpful. They're not a panacea. But
It's like you need some kind of data to
yeah.
go off of it.
Yeah, to know your chances, to know what's important to people and to the various age groups. It's rarely the top line data that's important that gets disseminated, because if a campaign is disseminating polling information that they paid for, it's because they want you to know it for a specific reason, like, hey, our candidate's looking great.
Mm-hmm.
But it's usually the details that kind of show the more interesting stuff, and also the size. Like if it's 250 people, then it's not going to be that reliable when you break it down.
Right.
But
Sample size.
yeah, sample size is
Yeah.
hugely important
Size
as well.
does matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what she said. Ooh.
I did.
Going back to clam chowder, no. um, I'm just see if I have,
Oh, that's a horrible visual.
this is a this is a lighter note. Goofy question: when you park somewhere, maybe you just did this now. Do you back in or do you pull in, just straight in?
I don't understand the backing in. Like, are you robbing the place and
You
you're
gotta
trying to
get
get
out
out
quick.
quickly?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I didn't. I know. I most of the time just park like a normal human being, but which is straight in. But I've been backing in recently at work, which I guess I'm not really trying to save time. I don't know why I've been doing it. But,
Yeah, I was
Doing
gonna
it
ask
because
why.
one, you're a man, and it's baked into your genetic.
to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Like only men do that.
That's
Only
true.
men.
But
I'm
some men like to back that ass up though.
yeah, because they want to pull out faster at the end.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I didn't,
Without- yeah.
didn't expect this to go this way. But it's funny.
Oh, when you get the two of us together, it's back to back pretty much.
So, but you normal.
I'm not a man.
You pull in normally.
Yeah, I don't even know how.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't know. If I have to back into something, I get out and I have my husband do it.
Okay.
Or I would just ask a random passerby who was a man.
to get in your car and
Can you please back this up for me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great, great.
I pull in because I don't believe in gender constructs. So
It's
See,
a-
now
it's-
I'm the bad guy here.
It's an ideological
yeah,
decision.
I'm a he they now.
They, but you still pull in. You should be able to do both, I think, if you're going to be non-binary with your parking.
That'd be he. She.
You're a non-binary Parker.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me get into my end. Or actually, is there anything that's bugging you? I was gonna ask you that, like just locally or anything nationally, or just anything. Is there anything on your mind politically that's really bugging you?
I think the apologism of a lot of people, or apologia of a lot of people in Portland, and as a relative newcomer, it really shouldn't bother me. Because hey, I just got here, relatively speaking, and what I think about the city should be subordinate to the people who've put their time in. I want to say that right off the bat. So my opinion isn't as important. I think it has value having a different perspective, being able to see things from an outsider lens. But I'll also say it doesn't matter that much. But the people who've seem to have largely given up onto, like, they won't say it can't get better, but what they do say implies as such. You know, it's like this everywhere sort of stuff.
Right.
Where you should demand more. Even stuff like litter everywhere. This is a city that prided itself on being eco-friendly, environmentally friendly,
Yeah.
and yet you overlook that. A city that prides itself on being good to the people around it, and yet you just walk past people who are going through crises and just ignore them. All these conflicts, and a lot of people, it's the explaining away cognitive bias in their own opinion, that anything to not make a change in their patterns, their voting patterns, how they, yeah.
It's a confirmation bias of like, hey, I was right. This is working. Kind of.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I had a couple Lyft drivers when I would go downtown recently, because I almost never park down there. But one of them was from like the Bay Area, and I was like, how do you like living here? Like, do you see a lot of the same stuff? And what I was talking about was like homelessness and all that. And he was just like, he almost was like willfully ignoring it. He was like, it's so much better here. You know, I like it. You know, there are some things that are different, but and as we pulled into downtown, you start to see tents just everywhere. And I'm like, I'm just thinking like about what you were just talking about, of like, is that just confirmation bias of like, I made the right choice in moving to Portland,
Yeah.
even though it's pretty much the same as San Francisco, or, you know.
People are stuck in their thought patterns too. Like they think there's no other way to vote or think than the decent way, the way that we do things here. Like,
Yeah. And there seems to be a mindset of this enlightenment from a lot of these same people. And I think some of it's an education level thing where, and I saw a study showing that people with higher degrees a lot of times were more prone to be tricked or scammed
Oh wow.
than people who weren't. Um, and it kind of goes back to your own biases of, well, I'm an intelligent, educated person, so ergo I'm enlightened and I will never be wrong. And no one's going to say that outright.
But they feel they've kind of earned that status.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and none of us are perfect. I mean, I've had many bad takes in my life, so I'm certainly not prone to not have that. But that sort of mindset really seems to get in the way of progress of having a real, authentic conversation about how things got so effed up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, that makes sense to me. What is your favorite and least favorite thing in the Northwest? Doesn't have to be Portland, but the whole Pacific Northwest. Because you're kind of fresh to the area in a few years.
Northwest Fresh.
Yeah.
Plug there. The parks. Well, green trees.
Because
Not
you're used to desert
used to-
climate.
or pavement more than anything else.
Yeah.
Urban desert. Yeah, trees, parks. Some of the parks here are amazing. Least favorite thing. Everything is more expensive.
Really? Yeah, because you mentioned that earlier compared
Even
to
the drugs.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Probably-
fentanyl over
yeah.
there is $5. No, I'm just
Well, I was traveling in the southeast, and I filled up in Kentucky for $2.45 for
Wow.
per gallon of gas.
It's like 2000s prices.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
weird leaving our bubble. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just everything's more expensive across the board, and I should be thankful. I do all right. I can afford it, but yeah.
Just things are just escalating in price.
Yeah,
everywhere,
yeah. And it's not just Portland. I've been up to Seattle a handful of times, and just even dinner, even without beer, is just brutally expensive up
Yeah,
there.
I bet. I almost moved there, and one of the reasons I didn't, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, is Washington has their own sales state tax, and then Seattle has a city tax on top of that, I think, as far as I know. But
Yeah, yeah. And
but they got Microsoft and Amazon money up there, so
well, yeah, and I think it's part and parcel of it being an in-demand area. Same with Portland is, when you get an influx of people, it's, it's supply and demand. It's going to shoot up prices for things when there's more demand because there's more people. So it's a positive. If we wanted to be live life on the cheap, we could go to I don't know, Kansas.
I always say Tulsa. I don't know why.
I've used Tulsa.
Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've used Omaha, but what's his name? Warren Buffett's from there, so it
Yeah.
might be a little bit more expensive now. But yeah, so it's a push pull. It's a negative, but it's negative because of positive, I would say. But no, I would not go back. And by the way, the winters here are better than the summers in Arizona.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say that right.
Yeah.
Unless you love the sun, there are some weirdos like that, or unless you've been here too long, and you get your seasonal disaffective disorder or whatever it is.
You could
Yeah, I mean,
snowbird
I'm
though.
disaffected in general anyway, so like the extra layer on top of it is not good. Although I had it in the summertime when I was in Virginia because it was so disgusting all summertime that I wouldn't want to go outside. And I was
Yeah.
homesick and all of that. So I just flipped the season in which I get nasty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's fun to have something to bitch about at some point of the year. Unless you live in San Diego and it's just perfect all the time.
You get a little
Yeah.
coastal weather. I was thinking I could see you. I think it's called snowbirding. You could go up there and play pickleball in the winter. And
Yeah.
My husband dreams of being
you
a
guys could
snowbird.
retire. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's older than me, so we're closer to retirement than
Yeah.
you might think. But there's no way we're getting a second home. We have 4 kids.
I know a lot of.
That's not
Well,
happening.
not a lot. I know a few retirees who went to Surprise, Arizona. You know that place, and
I know.
big
surprise.
retirement town, I think, or city.
Yeah, it's so far out that it's cheaper. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprise.
It's nowhere near as fun as the name would imply.
Yeah.
Surprise. It's boring.
Surprise! It's 80 plus. No, 70 plus community.
Yeah, the retirement communities are wild out there.
I like feeling like the youngest one in the room, though.
Yeah.
I can go hang out with a bunch of old people.
Mhm.
Smack and
the
pickle.
olds we call them sometimes, but
Yeah.
I kind of stole that from Bridget Fedesi. But all right, I always end unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Anything you want to bring up before I ask my peanut butter question? Did I ask you that before?
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Were you on when?
I
Yeah,
have
go
not
ahead.
heard this
Oh, I was gonna say, and here's where I piss off some of my followers even more. The Arizona election was not stolen, Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Kill any hopes
Yeah.
and dreams there. I
Any,
can tell you exactly why.
Carrie Lake hardcore supporters.
Carrie Lake is the worst. I know people that have interacted with her away from politics and said, and these are women who said she was a see you next Tuesday,
Okay.
just in everyday life.
Yeah.
Cunt.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think we can say that. I think, yeah.
Okay.
You can bleep it out.
I'll let her say it.
I'm pretty
and-
sure it's mine.
And the reason why I know that is, amongst other reasons, the person who ran the elections lost his own election. So you'd think if he's going to steal it, he would include himself. But it's a good lesson for this upcoming election, as well as the biggest reason was seniors. And that the senior communities, and this is where you can find out, because usually when it comes to how people vote outside of exit polling, you don't really know. And with exit polling, you're trusting them to tell you what happened.
Right.
Well, if you get a full municipality, a full city, a full precinct, or anything like that, you can see precisely how they voted.
Mm-hmm.
And one good example of this is Sun City. There's a number of cities that are purely retirement 65 and over.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see how things change for the seniors, and seniors always vote,
They got nothing else to do.
they got nothing else to do. You can see how precisely how seniors voted as a proxy. And I remember looking at the Sun City data, and from 2016 to 2020, the vote shift away from Trump was about 7 percentage points, 6 or 7 percentage
Okay.
points. Trump was still winning seniors, but by 6 or 7 points less. So if you extrapolate that over the entire state, it's no reason why he lost in 2020. Probably had to do with, a lot of people took COVID too seriously, but people who didn't were seniors because they were prone to die. And
Sure,
then Trump
yeah.
was not really taking it very seriously for a while. So that's,
That actually makes sense. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
yeah. And, everyone's opinions are like assholes.
Everyone's got them. Yeah.
Most of them stink. But yeah. So just kind of want to get that out of the way there.
No, I'm glad. I was thinking about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, lots of Californians moving to Arizona. So everyone hates Californians.
With
Sorry.
Yeah. there's-
reason.
I think Texas is dealing with the same thing. They're like, don't change Texas. Come
Yeah.
in here from California.
Don't
Yeah.
California my Arizona was a
Yeah.
slogan from the old governor. So, and they probably kind of moved things more moderate for Arizona and kind of brought their own politics with them. And yeah, what can you do?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You guys can both answer this because I can't remember if I asked you this before.
I don't remember a peanut butter question.
Are you team crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Oh, this is less disgusting than I was
Yeah, it's
expecting.
not. I ask everybody this because everyone loves food, but not everyone. I had one guest who didn't like peanut butter at all, so that's fine too if you don't like it.
So who are the psychopaths who actually like crunchy peanut butter? That's
I do.
that's
I
what
will
I'm-
say I'm on team, but I'm in the minority.
What
for
is
sure.
it, like too much work for you?
it gets in your teeth, and I don't know.
But
It's,
would you eat chips? Like,
but I'm expecting a chip-like experience when I'm eating chips. I'm not expecting crunchy.
but a peanut has crunch.
Yes, but it's peanut butter, and butter does not have crunch.
That's an interesting point.
True.
The whole point is for it to be a butter, but
And plus the crunchiness with your jam is not crunchy, right? So you must have a copacetic,
Unless it's
mouthfeel
really
experience.
They're
seedy.
seeds.
Yeah, you couldn't,
Strawberry
yeah.
seeds,
Yeah.
Joseph.
They're not
Yeah.
crunchy. They're not like pits or anything.
crunchy jam. Yeah.
Crunchy jam.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds like
that would be
fish.
weird.
It's like Grateful Dead or something.
Yeah, it does. We're doing a 3-hour crunchy jam. So smooth. You like crunchy? Or
I'll do either.
okay, you're amber penetribus. I can't even say that. Ambidextrous or something like that.
I'm non-binary when it
Non-binary
comes to
peanut
my
butter. Yeah.
peanut products, but I prefer an organic peanut butter. I'll say
Okay.
because
You like the stir kind.
yes, I'll stir my peanut butter. I just don't want it drenched in fungicides,
Okay.
which
I can understand. I
Unless-
don't actually understand that.
if you
but-
if you don't buy organic peanut butter, it's generally like
You're talking palm oil and all that stuff, or I
fungicides.
don't even know what that is.
Anti-fungal.
Is that what they're calling it now?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, you have like there's
No, I
pesticides, there's
understand.
herbicides,
It's
and then there's
anti-fungus.
fungicides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Ooh.
I am quite crunchy. What can I say?
cool.
As
we
crunchy as my peanut butter.
have a diverse spread here. Not
Yes.
that's a well play
Like
on
a
words. but
peanut
yeah.
butter.
This is like Portland's version of diversity. Just various flavors of white, but different peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crunchy or not?
Well,
yeah.
we listen to a lot of hip hop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
like
All right.
Inside.
Best hip hop artist then. Let me interview.
Best. Oh my god, that's hard.
Best.
Or top 3. Or...
I don't have a good answer for that.
Well,
but yeah.
I get a lot of shit for this at work. I love Drake, despite what happened this week. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
no. Did
He had a sex tape that
Oh,
is out there. If
Is it
you
with
want to
Taylor
find
Swift?
it, no.
well, he
But
missed
you
an
can
opportunity with
see
that.
him, and he
Is it big?
is getting a lot of attention for
Oh.
that.
In a good attention or bad attention?
In a good way, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, all right.
But a lot of people think he did on purpose. He leaked it himself. I'll tell you that he's wearing a hoodie and nothing else. So
Oh.
you can picture that. But I'm a big
I
Drake
don't
fan.
picture that.
I was just mentioning Future before you got here to Tara. I like Future. I don't know. It's hard to pick a favorite. I've been listening to. I could go on and on. There's a lot of new people that come on the scene and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, I'm still a Ye fan. I'll say that. I know you are too.
I
but
do. I like Kanye.
He just put out a video this week with his daughter. You can check that out. But
I don't like a lot of the things that he's done lately, but I do love Kanye.
Yeah.
And I like listening to Kendrick Lamar when I'm grocery shopping.
Mm-hmm. Kendrick's classic.
Bitch, don't kill my vibe.
Yeah. What if we both just said Vanilla Ice? Would you be like, no, never mind.
Beastie Boys.
Anyway, yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to say, or we'll wrap it up here?
I already said the C word, so
Yeah,
there's not really much else for me to say.
that's why you came here. So,
I
well,
just
yeah,
want to make my parents proud.
this was fun. Thanks for coming. You're always welcome back. And yeah,
Anytime.
All right. This was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
You can show up whenever.
Yeah. 3 a.m.
yeah, come by.